There we go.
Welcome everybody to the what is this? I think the 15th
15th.
of the Gray Circle Comic Book Club. Today we'll be going over Zach's pick, which is the Thanos Imperative. With this particular one, we're looking at the writers Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning. We have the artist Miguel Angel Sepulveda. Pencilers, we got Brad Walker. Inkers, we got Andrew Hennessy. Letterers, Joe Carmagna. Colorists, we have Wilfredo Quintana and J. David Ramos. And then as well as the editors, we have Rachel Peneas, Joe Quesada, and Bill Roseman. So with that, Zach, we'll turn it over to you. Tell us why you picked it, how you liked it, and we'll go from there.
Well, I picked it because it's good, and I liked it because it's good. Thank you.
All right, that concludes this episode of Comic Book Club. It was good.
All right, well, I read this comic, I don't know, a while ago, a few years back, and obviously I was drawn to it because it was a Thanos-based story, of course. I mean, it's right there in the title. And it took place after Annihilation, and I just that's really why I picked it up, of course. But man, I enjoyed the story very much. I enjoyed the pacing of the story. It felt much more like this is lined up to be a movie, and I really enjoyed the artwork in this story. Not in this story. I'm sorry, in this comic. Sorry, my daughter walked in. What's up, babe? Okay, not important right now. Bye, babe. Okay, bye. Bye. Yeah, I'm sure it's great. Okay. I love the artwork in this. Matt, we talked a little bit beforehand, and Matt had indicated that he thought Annihilation was a little better. I really enjoyed Annihilation as well, but and I really, obviously, I love the things on the larger scale. Most of the comics that I pick have that type of galaxy impact, and things like this, as we look at this here, you see when all those planets come together in the beginning, and that's one page there, one panel, and they all explode, and just the magnitude of this, the massive Galactus engine and the artwork on that, and everything is so beautiful in the scale. And I gotta say, reading this again, because I read it again, of course, in preparation for tonight, after having seen Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, I knew about the Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't read all their stuff. I was familiar with them. I didn't really, honestly, care that much for Rocket Raccoon back when, but after having watched the movie, this comic read differently to me. You could read the attitude and personality as played by the actors better in the comic book. I loved that. I really enjoyed that. And to be honest, it really makes me want to read some more Guardians of the Galaxy, because obviously this came out long before the movie, and what I missed in those Guardians of the Galaxy characters is what the actors really played out. And the actors that played Star-Lord and Rocket Raccoon really, whether it was just the writers of the movie or maybe they did some additional research in the comics, boy, that was there. It was always there. I didn't really catch on to it as much as I did this time after having them. But I really enjoyed it. It's a fairly quick read, of course. Love the artwork, love the story. I really enjoyed the cunning of Thanos that you get to see there, where he intentionally allowed himself to be captured and sacrificed himself, partly maybe for some selfish ulterior motives, where he was looking to serve death, but at the same time it was still all part of his plan, and the only way he was going to defeat this person was to get death close enough to Magus, the alter ego for Adam Warlock. I'm sorry. Thank you for Captain Marvel in this alternate timeline. Thank you. So those are my thoughts.
All right. Well, I have to say with this particular comic, I was a little leery going into it. I wasn't while I enjoyed, I wasn't as huge of a fan as some of the earlier Thanos comics that we read. Annihilation was real. I mean, it was very good, and there were parts of it I really liked, and other parts I wasn't a huge fan of. So going into this one, I assumed I would like it, but it wouldn't be at the top of my list. And I'm very happy to say I was completely wrong. I think so far this has actually probably been the favorite comic that I've read yet. And I ended up liking it far more than I anticipated. And maybe it was partly understanding the characters better because of some of the other comics we've read, seeing some of the movies. But I love the pacing of the story. I love the artwork. I love the writing. I love how everything came together. I like how the story was set up, how the climax was, how it was eventually resolved. It didn't feel fake or rushed. Everything felt perfect in this particular story arc. And being a huge Lovecraft fan, it definitely helps that they brought in Cthulhu. I don't know if you all caught that, but the many-angled ones are the craft. They're Cthulhu and all of them. Even some of the words, like the Fatagan, the word they kept throwing out, that's actually part of the Cthulhu chant. So I didn't realize Marvel had Lovecraftian lore brought in, and I ended up going up and looking it up after reading the comics because I'm like, well, there's just too many similarities here, and that's exactly what it's meant to be. That is Cthulhu and the other great old ones, and that was the whole purpose of this universe. Is it brought them in, and so that obviously makes me like it quite a bit because I'm a huge Lovecraft fan. But I mean, I liked Thanos's his methods throughout this comic book, and it felt so much more real to me in this one, and it actually made more sense. All the character development, I was just completely impressed by every component of this particular comic series, and just thoroughly enjoyed it. And I so much I liked the ending of it. I'm sure they're not dead, but I like Star-Lord's and Nova Prime's sacrifice at the end to hold Thanos there for just 60 seconds for the universe to implode on itself, and how they're remembered after the fact, and just everything about it. I like how it came together, and to me this one, it felt more real on the cosmic scale, because so many of the other cosmic ones, their parts of the story are so forced that it doesn't really feel like this big grand scale to me. It seems like an over-the-top story that's going to get resolved, and it doesn't feel real. And that's why oftentimes I don't like some of the big, huge cosmic ones as much. But this one was the complete opposite of that. The story felt right, felt realistic. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So great pick.
Here's what he was referring to with the many-angled ones. As you look in the background there, and you see Thanos captured, and he says that right there. He says, he talks about the many-angled ones. Behold, the many-angled ones, I brought you, Thanos. To be honest, I completely missed that. I completely missed that.
As did I.
It makes sense. It makes total sense, but I didn't.
He does this thing. You realize it's because of the great old ones. He effectively does what everybody's trying to do in every Cthulhu story out there. Captain Marvel is a cultist who successfully summons them, and that gave him the power to kill death.
Yep.
A terrorist. Okay. Matt?
I dug it. It's a great story. I love the cosmic stories and whatnot. There's a lot of really cool stuff. I really enjoyed seeing, like, especially at the end with Thanos and his interaction with death at the very end of the book. I thought that was fantastically well done. I mean, especially future comics, it even relates to that, and it's fantastically well done. For me, though, if I had to create one criticism of it, it seems...
Sorry, whoa, shit, Matt, you're breaking up. Oh, we lost you.
Hey,
oh.
Shut up.
I'm just kidding.
It seemed in its scale, because it was trying to move quicker, that it was trying to capture the scale of Annihilation, since Annihilation came before it. And I'm talking about, like, that third book, that was the actual war, when they're all invading, and it's all that combat and whatnot. It seemed to be trying to recapture the scale of Annihilation, and for me, it just never quite... It just seemed to be copying what Annihilation did in terms of scale and whatnot. It's like, oh, they're going along, and all of a sudden, bam, there's cosmic celestials. They kind of came,
I
I'm
like
not
how
saying it's
this
bad.
one, though, there was a purpose. In some of the other cosmic ones, Marvel does the typical reset switch. You kill everybody,
Sure.
the resolution has a reset switch.
Infinity
In this
Gauntlet,
one,
that is
they
very true.
threw all the people there, and in so many other cosmic ones, sacrifices are in vain because there's just one weakness, and once you figure it out,
Absolutely.
nothing
Absolutely.
ever had to happen. But in this case, everything was a matter of delaying them long enough in order to have
Absolutely.
the strike team do what they need to do. It
I
never
am by no means
spread
saying
to
it's
other
bad.
worlds. It never moved out and killed Earth on all these different planets. All of these armies sacrificed themselves to hold these bad guys in place just long enough for the strike team to do what they have to do.
Absolutely, I totally dig it. It's a great story. All I'm saying is because I only read this one recently. Last week, gearing up for the meeting last week. And whereas I read Annihilation before that, back when Annihilation first came out, it for me in
And
terms
also
of
on the way to Travis's wedding, right?
no, actually I read Infinity War on the way back from
Also read
Travis's wedding.
Annihilation. Okay.
No, Annihilation I had read before.
Snooze.
But anyhow, it just, for me, it seemed to be trying to capture a scale from something that was done. And actually, in terms of when these were released, this was released very close to Annihilation. This came out, I think, maybe a year or 2 years after Annihilation did. So for me, it seemed like it was trying to recapture the scale that Annihilation was, and it just seemed to be copying that. That's the only thing I would have to say if I had a complaint for it. But it's an amazing book all in, for everything that everyone just said. We get to look at a lot of characters. Guardians of the Galaxy is a much much bigger factor in this one. They're fantastic in this one. I dig Thanos in this one because he's not, while he's still in control and he still has a grand plan, he doesn't seem as in control as Thanos normally does when he's involved.
And Death cried at the end when she walked away. He's begging Death not to walk away. And Death just does it, and that lets you know that Death does care.
And that's the thing.
Because of her
There's a later
machinations,
series.
can't admit it.
There's a later series called Thanos Rising, where when you think about the end of that one in relation to this one, it makes this one all
Matt,
that
don't
more
tell me I
awesome.
haven't read that last issue. The last issue
Oh my
yet.
god, you need to read the last issue. What the?
No, believe me, I know.
Anyhow, I digress. It's
Just
there's some huge gems in this one.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing a lot of time here, but I just enjoyed this one so much. I really like the ending with Cosmo Dog and Peter Quill's admission that we were called the Guardians of the Galaxy, but really we never were. We weren't powerful enough to be the Guardians of the Galaxy. I tried, nobody listened, but now you understand the importance of this, which is why I'm summoning together the Annihilators, because you have the cosmic power in order to protect this galaxy and do what I couldn't. I love that.
It's great. There's so many gems in this one. That is one thing I do love. There are these kernels of just awesomeness throughout the entire book.
Yeah, there's that tear,
Yep.
that tear in the cheek that they really glisten that too to make sure you understand what's going on there.
It also makes me really want to pick up some of the more recent cosmic stuff, because it's no surprise. Obviously, some of these characters that we think are dead come back. Obviously, Thanos, Star-Lord has come back. Richard Rider still has not, I might add. But it makes me want to read some of the more recent stuff to see how that relates into the Cancerverse and how this ended.
All right, Steve.
So I really liked this series. I like the cosmic battle the most, where the alternate universe is coming in and it's just hold the line, bring out all of our big guns, and then they start bringing out cosmic entities like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? Then our cosmic entities show up. It's like, oh damn, this is cool. And then they kind of I don't know, wormed their way out of it from a writing standpoint. It kind of makes sense, but they're like, oh yeah, they're doing all this badass stuff. It's just you can't perceive it because it's not, you're just a mortal, and they're fighting on these completely different scales.
I love that.
I love that too. I thought that was so cool.
It was good, but it just seemed like a little bit of a missed
If something
opportunity.
altered in it, you would know, and then all of a sudden the head blows up. I mean, yes.
But in that scene, there were a couple things that I didn't really fully understand. So one of the aspects from our universe dies, right? We lose one of them. I didn't pick up on who that was or what that was.
Which one was that?
Do any of you guys?
Which one was that?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point because in theory, that aspect, whatever just died, will take that out of our universe.
Right. It wasn't.
Sometimes something takes its place.
Yeah, it wasn't one of the main ones like the time or infinity. It wasn't one of those. It was like a red guy.
No, she was gold. It was a she.
Was it she?
It was a she. I'm trying to remember who it was. Though. Give me a minute. I'm searching.
Yeah, also, by the way, just FYI, Annihilation came out in 2007. This came out in 2012, so there was 5 years in between.
I thought it was much closer than that. Well, I was completely wrong.
That's all right. You were close. You were, well, I mean, you weren't, but you're good.
But the other thing that I thought was really badass looking was the Galactus engine when it came in. That's so cool.
Well, because you sit there and you're like, oh my god, there's Galactus. I mean, what do they have to go over it? All of a sudden, this giant. You're like, oh, okay, shit. Well,
but the part that I didn't understand about that was, so on the front of the Galactus engine was the skull, right? Galactus's skull from the Cancerverse. Why the hell was that so much larger than Galactus in our universe? I didn't understand.
The crazy thing about that is the way that would be larger and so different is somehow they managed to kill Galactus in their universe time and time again. Because every time they get killed, they come back a little bit more powerful and a little bit more mutated.
Okay. I think that could be a large part of it, is that the continuous mutation of Galactus. Now, keeping in mind...
Bigger and bigger and bigger?
Because even when you saw him fight the Revengers, and they killed him, they came back, and the Hulk was bigger, and he had more horns on him. Everybody who came back was more mutated and scarier and larger.
And Galactus is the devourer of worlds, and so, I don't know, maybe if he... When you have a limit, there's no death and a limitless supply of life, it allows him to just get friggin' huge. I don't know.
He just gorges on it, and it doesn't actually...
That's actually some pretty solid logic for Galactus,
that
actually.
Could be. Yeah, that big... And you see where's... you see friggin' Galactus.
Yep, just a little tiny guy.
There, and there's Galactus engine. It's so badass.
It was definitely really, really cool. I'd like to, I'd definitely like to read more cosmic stuff, maybe some more Silver Surfer type stuff down the road. There was a character named Ego, just like a living planet. I don't know if he was in this one or not, but he's one of the most interesting characters, and I'd love to see more cosmic stuff like him.
One of my favorite panels of Ego I've ever read is the world, and actually it's either Richard Rider or Star-Lord, I can't remember which, but Ego appears above Earth, and it goes, hey, you're a nice looking little blue planet, I'm Ego, how are you doing? And Star-Lord, whoever it was, goes, okay. It's fantastic.
Okay, yeah, you said red, and I think why the red is this is what the Gold Lady looks like after, that's her.
Okay.
And that's the Gold Lady. Once she gets killed, she looks more like that.
I have no idea who the hell she is.
Yeah, I don't recall who she is either.
I think it's Infinity, actually. I think it's Infinity.
Yeah, it could be.
Was that one of the ones from Annihilation that got freed?
No. I know which ones you're talking about. I think those were Celestials that got freed.
Well, like there was Galactus, and then two other ones got trapped in the killed or whatever. It wasn't one of those.
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I don't remember that
at the moment.
Well, we can look at that later. Let's turn it over to Travis. See his thoughts on it. Travis.
Well, I am biased on these things because I don't like cosmic stories. They're too big to cover in a comic. You need a novel to really get the scope of everything. Where I'm surprised, every single comic that I've ever read except for The Watchmen. That was the longest fucking comic I've ever read. But
It is the longest fucking comment I think anybody's
yeah,
read.
every single comic that I've ever read has always felt rushed, no matter what. And this one especially so, because when you have such a grand scale of things to go from, just a normal day in the universe to end of all things, in the matter of a few pages is very rushed.
It was rushed.
Yeah, but like you said, all
I
comics
think it's
are
part of the reason why-
All comics, yes.
but
But I think it's part of the reason why I felt this one's trying to copy Annihilation so much is because of how quick it is. I agree. It did move a little, perhaps too quickly.
Too quickly, and those images, what everybody said pretty much, where the cosmic beings came in and they're just standing there, so much larger than the ships that are going to battle, almost as if they're overseeing it to make sure that one side doesn't get too out of the hand until Cancerverse's cosmic beings come in, and then they're like, oh shit, now we really got to do something. But the fact that they got there last, why is it that the cosmic beings are always the last to find out? Why? That is my problem with it.
They're
Why?
the last to get involved.
Why?
Because if they have to get involved, then the shit has hit the fan.
But it is hit the fan. And think about
Right,
every
that's-
single
They
situation.
were there pretty freaking quick in this one too.
They
It
were.
took them a while to engage in Annihilation. They were like
I mean, what
right on this shit in this one.
Pages in a Surfer and go, oh, Surfer, you're joining us? He goes, no, I'm just the Herald. We're 10 pages in, people.
Why are the Guardians of the Galaxy the first responders? It doesn't make
Because
any sense.
those major entities, they don't get involved. They want everything to play its course. They don't give a shit about the peddly shit of human beings killing themselves,
If
planets
that's
getting
the
destroyed,
case-
whatever.
If that's
They only
They
care
don't care
when
about
things
that.
threaten the
Directly
universe.
threaten them, they don't really care.
Indeed.
yeah, but if that's the case, then why do they show up? If that's the
Because
case,
it-
Their whole fucking they'd
Existence
be
is that.
wiped out if they didn't get involved.
Their
oh, so
existence
they,
is
they didn't have the foresight to see that. All of the Guardians of the Galaxy were like, oh yeah, this guy's coming in and he's going to destroy the universe. But no, the ultimate beings had no.
Every human being is always thinking that the guy that comes in is going to destroy the universe.
It doesn't matter.
That's what we always think. That wasn't.
Yeah, I think we're thinking of we're talking about a storytelling scale here. Yeah, I mean, if you bring them in right away, what's the point of telling a story if you have the cosmic entities already doing shit?
That's my problem with cosmic.
We gotta ramp it up.
Because when you have it at such a cosmic level, it's hard to balance it to my liking, in my personal opinion. Now, let me say that if this was a normal situation where maybe it was a worldly problem, not necessarily a universal problem, maybe that can be justified. But on a cosmic level, it's too much, in my opinion. So, what I'm going to say is the artist in this. What was his name again?
Sepulveda.
Let's look it up.
Miguel Angel Sepulveda.
Sepulveda, yeah. He was amazing. Zach, you said it, and then I went back and I looked at it again, and I was like, wow, because I enjoyed it very much as I was reading, but just paying attention to the detail. I mean, that stuff was awesome. And then because kind of it's screenplay basically, or a story arc basically, but all those different scenes and the ones that they chose to illustrate in the times that they did, and just all the different camera angles and everything, they were perfect in my opinion. But other than that, I can't get into cosmic stories. Can't do it. Not for me. So if you have a problem with I would say balance, then maybe this isn't your read. But if you like all those cosmic powers and beings and Thanos and all that, then this is
In itty bitty
Like
living
it-
spaces.
a great story. So let's kick it off. Final thoughts, Adam?
It was excellent. I loved it, and normally I'd agree that I don't typically like cosmic, and I don't like the scale because the stories never make sense to me because they're just over the top rushed, even though all comics are rushed. But this one actually happened to be one that I actually enjoyed the pacing of and the story, and this is the one cosmic story that I actually really liked.
Okay. You guys already got mine. So Zach, we'll go with you last. Matt?
It's an entertaining story. No matter what your opinions are on cosmic stuff and whatnot, it's entertaining. And in the end, what more can you ask for from a good story?
All right. Steve?
Yeah, I thought it was a good story. I mean, it wasn't a whole lot on character development, but it had a good plot of, hey, here's this what if scenario. You know, what if there was another alternative universe where death died? What would happen? You know, maybe they try to attack us. Makes total sense, especially in a comic setting. You know, where they can play around with different things like that. I really like the comic. It's probably one of my favorites that we've read so far. I did find out the aspect who died was Aegis, which was one of the two aspects that was imprisoned in the beginning from Annihilation.
Oh, okay. It's starting to ring a bell now. Yep.
Yeah, it was the lady, the female one.
Yep.
This comic
Yeah.
had Cthulhu. I mean,
Steve,
you can't beat that.
I really like your final thoughts there. That was good. That was good. Good way to sum it up. Okay, Zach.
Did Matt go?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. That's right. I really enjoyed it. I agree with Steve actually. Where there wasn't much character development in this. I think the story reads fine without it, but it almost does kind of assume that you know some of these characters and/or read Annihilation in advance, especially with what happened between Drax and Thanos, and understanding what Drax's primary purpose on this universe or on this whatever is. And so there's not as much of that. I loved it. I would love to see it as a movie. I think it reads very much like a movie. I would have loved to see 3-4 more issues in it too, though, just because again, this is my jam right here.
Yeah.
So if they had stretched it out, thrown in some character development, and added some additional stuff and another Splinter Cell, whatever that might have been, I would have loved that. But other than that, really enjoyed it. I love the artwork so much. Just absolutely love the artwork in this. I'm gonna look for some more done by that illustrator or that artist, and see if there's anything that he's done paired up with the coloring as well, because I really did enjoy the coloring.
Yeah.
Penciling, so.
Thanos versus Hulk comes out this week.
Shout out to that
Written
person.
by Jim Starlin and drawn by the same guy that did Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Comes out this week.
And speaking of movies, since our last meeting, Marvel's announced their slate of movies coming out for the next few
I'm
years.
so excited.
I was like, oh my god, this is like the perfect day to be talking about Thanos Imperative.
Yeah, and so they've got their plate full. It'll be a while before they get around to this storyline. They probably have to finish out the movies that they've announced, and then maybe do Annihilation War first. But I agree that this would make a fantastic movie. Tons of cool special effects possibilities.
Oh man, it so would. Oh, it's so
Marvel's
good.
got the rights to all the characters actually in the story. We don't have
It's
any
true.
men or.
I forgot about one part, and I just want to point out how much of an asshole Bale Star is, or what's his name? Bale, Queen Medusa and
Oh, Ballstar.
Ballstar. Yeah.
Oh, you're talking Queen Medusa, the Inhumans, and well, Ballstar is of the.
Yeah.
what's
What an
that
asshole.
race? Yeah, he's an asshole.
Yeah, total friggin' asshole.
Medusa is Black Bolt's queen, and in this issue, she's actually leading the Kree Empire at this point.
But that is something else, though, Travis, is a good point in that I don't know shiznit about that backstory at all. Again, I don't think it was necessary, but I would have liked to have known a little bit more about the conflict that happened there that put Queen Medusa in the lead over where Bellstar felt he might have had priority.
In defense of them, Medusa and the Inhumans have been characters since the '60s, so it's right up there with these are characters that you probably don't need a lot of character development because we already similar to some of the other ones that we came across in this issue.
You do realize I wasn't around in the '60s, right?
You do realize I wasn't either, but I've still read books from the '60s. So there.
All right.
So, and there's going to be an Inhumans movie.
Yeah, I saw there will be an Inhumans movie, so yep.
Maybe one of the reasons I actually like this comic so much is for once I actually had the backstory on these characters.
Maybe.
It's the first comic I actually understood what the hell was going on.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
Maybe this was the worst one I've read, but it just had that bonus.
No. It's definitely not the worst. This was worlds between Batman and
Johnny the Homicide. Yeah. Great pick, Steve.
Yeah.
Hey, that one had old ones in it too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. This has been the 15th episode of Gray Circle Comic Book Club, and tune in to episode 16 for somebody's pick on some comic.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.